from My Dreaming Soap. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for dropping by. Now today we're going to do a festive soap. It's not really Christmassy, more sort of wintry type soap. Now the first thing I'm doing is, this is the day before I'm going to make the main soap. And what I want to do with my soap is I want to have it look like there's a dog inside a room looking out of a patio door and barking at a snowman in the garden. Okay, so that's my idea. Now, what I want to do first, for my patio door, I need to have a frame around the patio door, and I'm going to make that frame now. So I'm just going to pour a block of soap and then I'm just going to slice it to get the bits of the frame. So this weird setup I've got here, this is the mould I'm actually going to make my soap in, so this will give me the length that I want for my embed. But I don't want my embed as tall as this soap is wide. So rather than just pour a whole load of soap and waste it, what I've done is I've just got some Correx plastic that I had laying around, and I've just cut that to size. And then all these is I use these little pots for measuring, mixing up micas and things. And they were just a nice little width to just support this little divider, because it's quite a floppy little divider. It's not great, but it's going to be good enough for what I need. So that's just going to support it and keep it in the right place to give me an embed that's about the size that I want. Now this is a little bit bigger than I want, so obviously I can trim it slightly to size, but it's small enough so I'm not going to be wasting much soap when I do trim this embed down. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is mix up the soap for that. Now what I've got measured out here, these are all my melted oils that I need to make that window embed. But I'm only going to be making the window with a solid embed for what's going to be the vertical bits of the soap. The reason I'm not going to do the horizontal bits is because I find it very difficult to get a embed in that's going to cover the entire loaf of soap when it's just a solid flat sheet. Because you're then reliant on getting your pour exactly flat underneath it, getting them to meet perfectly, not get any bubbles or anything. And it's just really a pain to do and do it well. So an easier way to do it is anything that's a horizontal bit, so like the horizontal panes in my window, those I'm going to pour, and then I'm just going to make the vertical bits, which would be very difficult to pour, as a solid embed. Having said that, what I'm getting to with this is that this is the oil for all of the window frame. So I'm going to colour it all the same now, so that when I pour tomorrow and when I make the embed today, the brown that I need for the window frame is going to be the same. Okay, so I'm just going to get that blended into the whole load of oils. So this is all of my oils, and what I'm now just going to do is I'm just going to pour off the bit that I need to make my embed with today, and then the rest of these oils I will use them when I make the poured section of the window frame. So I'm just going to go and split those off. These are now split off, so these are the ones I want to put aside for tomorrow, and these are the oils and mica that I'm going to make up into my embed. So let's get this mixed up into some soap. Now fragrance oil, I am using cinnamon orange, and that's from Craftvator in the UK. And this is a gorgeous fragrance. It behaves really nicely in cold processed soap. It sticks really well after the cure, and it just smells lovely, so it's always a good one. And yeah, I do really love the fragrance of it. So let's just grab that mould again. Okay, it has all tipped over a little bit. I'm hoping that it's going to stay up when I get the soap in. I hope it's not going to turn into a big disaster, but we'll find out in a second, won't we? Right, let's get this in. Okay, so I'm going to put this in to C-pop overnight now, and then we'll cut that tomorrow. Here we are the next day, and I've unmoulded that little bit of window frame. Remember that brown wood that we made yesterday? And the first thing I want to do is to cut that to size before I pour the rest of the soap. So I know I want it to be 5 centimetres or 50 millimetres tall. So I've made it a little bit taller than that, just so that I could be happy I would end up getting the right amount of it. Okay, so there's my height chopped off. That's a spare bit I can use for something else. Just screw it up with some soap glue. And then I want to make the width of the window panes. So I've lowered my base here really down low. It's onto a 3 millimetre width. So I just need to get a couple of strips at that thickness. Okay, so there's one. Okay, and then the last one I want at 5 millimetres. So I'm just going to get this thinnest bit off here. And then, when I was thinking about how I'm going to do this soap, I realised that I was actually going to have to make this upside down in the mould. So, I'm going to grab my mould first, and I'm just going to attach these bits with a little bit of distilled water. Now, they're very freshly cut, so they should stick on pretty well. Okay, so can you see I've got my window frames in there. That's just the top, that's just the sides. I'm going to pour the top bit flat, and also this middle one is going to be added in as I go through and make the soap. Because I'm making this soap upside down, it means I can't decorate the top. So what I'm going to do is add a little water to the bottom, again distilled water all the time, just to dampen that bottom. And what I've got here are, quite often when I make some embeds, I have some little ends left over. So what I'll tend to do is I'll slice them up into thin slices and use them in other soaps. So that's what I've got here. I've got some spare little snowmen and hats and some spare little snowflakes. And all I'm going to do now is just spend a little bit of time just dropping these. I'm not going to try and line them up with the bars or anything. I'm just going to drop them onto the bottom, and then they will stick on the bottom and they will become a decoration on the top of the soap.
Well, I'm all for Christmas, all the happy smiles and the wishes, and I want it all, from the lights to the mistletoe.
Okay, so there we are with that. So as you can see, quite scattered on the top, so it won't really matter where I cut those bars. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to leave this to dry off, because maybe you can see there's still some water in the base there, and I don't want to pour soap on top of water. But also as well, by allowing that to dry off, what it will do is it will stick those down nicely to the surface. So when I do go and pour my first layer, they hopefully, as long as I pour it carefully, hopefully they won't all come floating up and into the soap. So I am just going to leave that to just dry off. So what I want to do now is I need to pour my horizontal top of my patio doors, my window frame. Do you remember yesterday when I made the sides, I mixed up the oils so that they have consistent mica in them. So what I've done is I've taken those oils, I've given them a really good stir and poured off the amount that I need for this top bit of window frame. I'm now going to just blend that up with my lye solution and sodium lactate. I'm going to leave that quite thin, so I'm just leaving it. I've just rolled it up the side of my little pot. I'm just going to check that it's emulsified. So as long as it's emulsified, I don't really mind if there's not a trace on it. I still need to add my fragrance oil. And the reason I'm going to do it really thin is because I want to make sure that as much as possible I get into all of these individual little shapes. So I'd much rather it flowed here really thin and then I got a nice flat layer rather than having it thicker. I don't mind waiting for it to set up. I've got a lot of other things I'm doing at the moment, so that will be fine. Right, I think that's going to do me there. So I'm going to pour this in. I'm going to use a spatula because I want to carefully get it over all of these shapes and hopefully not move them too much. While I'm waiting for that layer to set up, I've got a couple of things I've extruded. Now, I didn't do the extruding on screen. For all my winter soaps, my Christmas soaps, I did all the extruding for them all together. I literally spent an entire day from sort of like, oh gosh, it was about like 6 o'clock in the morning right till about 8 o'clock at night, just extruding stuff all day. So it took a long time and I didn't record it. So what have I got? This is a little dog. It's sort of like a Pomeranian's sort of husky type dog. So I've extruded that. Now what I'm going to do with this is, in my design, this white dog sits up against some white snow, and that will obviously make it tricky to see the detail of the dog. So you've probably seen me do this before. I do this with my like Antarctica soap with my penguins and things. Is I'm just going to go over the dog with some activated charcoal. I find it easier to do it like this than try and rub it in or roll it in some activated charcoal. This is just some activated charcoal in some distilled water, and it's just for me the easiest way to get it on. Now you won't see this very much in the soap, but it will just give a tiny little definition line just to break the shape of the dog away from the snow that's going to be behind it. I'm now going to start on the picture scene that's the dog can see through the window. So I've weighed out the oils that I need. Now I've made these oils up with my favourite combination to make a sky colour. So what I use is my normal ratio of colour, which is 0.6% of my oils, and I've done half of that as shimmer blue from Mica Mama and half of it for titanium dioxide. Okay, and that's what I always use to get my sky colour. So let's get this mixed up. Now I'm going to sort of do it all in one go, but what I need to do is set some of this first so it will support the other elements before I completely fill it in. I think that would do. Now I'm going to pour a little bit of this off. And I am going to blend this bit up. Now I want some snow in my sky, so what I've done is I made a whole bar of soap, because as I said I've got quite a lot of Christmassy wintry soaps, so I just made a whole loaf of soap, just a small loaf, you know, like one of those sort of Amazon size moulds, and I've shredded it all up, and I'm going to be using it through several soaps. So this is the shred I'm going to use for this soap. I've got about 250 grams of soap here that's going to go in this whole design, so I'm going to put a little bit in here now. Now I don't really want it shred as big as that, so I am going to try, I may not be able to do it with in here, hopefully that's given me enough depth now to mash this a bit. Okay, away, big bit. Okay, think that's okay. Okay, so I think this is now set up enough. And what I'm going to do is take, remember that middle bit of window that I had? I'm going to just take that and pop that in the middle. And I'm going to use this to support it. So I'm going to warm this because I want this to thicken quite quickly. Okay, so I'm just over 100 degrees there. I'm going to put a little bit of my fragrance in. This is the fragrance for this whole blue layer. Okay, so I'm pouring bits either side to help support this window. Right, so that's in there and that's all pretty well not set up, but it's nice and firm. So what it's going to allow me to do is take my other embed, and this is a really cute, look at him there, little snowman with his scarf on. So let's get him or her in. And again, it's an upside down soap, so we need to get that into the mould upside down. Okay, so that's just in there to hold the snow person up.
Tell me one thing, is there anything that you're missing? I will keep you warm as soon as you remove that snow. Whatever we do, we will be alright. These holiday wonders will open your mind. May all your wishes tonight come true. The love I lived, the dream I knew. This Christmas I only wanna be close to you. Hey.
We're at our final layer now. So I've mixed up some orange. Now in this assessment that I have, I don't actually have an orange mica. So what I've done is I've mixed up a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 parts Sunshine Yellow from Mica Mama and 1 part Terracotta Red from Mica Mama. So that's given me this nice sort of rusty orange that I really like. Now what I need to do is make sure I get down the back of this dog with this very fluid soap, just to make sure I can fill up the back, and then when that's done I'm just going to pour the rest flat.
This Christmas I only wanna be close to you.
So there's our soap completed. Now I did, just as the camera was off there, just very quickly just run a back of a flat scraper just along the top to even it out. I didn't scrape any soap off, I just flattened it out. And the reason I did this is because this is going to be the bottom of the bars. So ideally I'd like to make sure they are really lovely and flat. Okay, so I'm going to leave that overnight and then we'll cut it either tomorrow, in a couple of days, or whenever we get round to it. Here's our soap the next day, and I'm really pleased with that top. It's come out really pretty. Those snowmen are really nice and prominent, let's say. I was going to say standy outy, but that's not right, against the brown of the soap. And we can see slightly unusual Christmassy colours, I guess, but it should fit well in with our cinnamon orange colour. Right, let's get this cut. Okay, let's have a look at what we've got. Ah, that's come out quite cute. Oh, I've got a little bit of a line there. Can you see there with my orange? I actually ended up having to top that orange up a little bit because the dog had gone in slightly lower than I expected. I ended up having to pour a little bit more soap in them. But that's come out quite cute with my little snowman. So a little bit more carpet than I would have liked there. Yeah, that's come out quite sweet, hasn't it? The little snowman there. I've got a lot of snow in there with the snowman. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. As I said, a bit of a shame about that stripe, that line down the carpet. What may actually happen is as that cures a little bit, you might find that that evens out a little. As sometimes I find with colours, they actually sort of brighten a little bit as it cures. As some of the water leaves, the colours become a little bit more saturated. So we might actually find that that happens. So that'll be interesting to see. And I'm quite pleased with how the top of the bars look. They look really cute as well, don't they? And here's a final photo of the soap to finish off. As you can probably see, those oranges did even out a little bit, but not completely. And then I just added a little stamp with "Who's Outside" written on it, just to finish the soap off. And I'm really pleased with that. I hope you've enjoyed this video and you like the soap. If you have, it would be great if you gave me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see what I'm making in the future, why not subscribe to my channel? Thanks for watching, everyone. Happy soaping!